Guys, today we're going to be ranking Looksmaxxers, and we're going to be doing basically a part 2 of the last video that was mainly focused on YouTubers and like established Looksmaxxers. Today we're going to be going into some of the more popular Looksmaxxers as of recently, people who have gone viral within the last year or year and a half. Let's get right into it. The first person is going to be Clavicular, and I think it's safe to say that he's the most popular Looksmaxxer out right now. He's recently gone mainstream and has been seen with a lot of big streamers like Cuffham, and was even on a Fresh and Fit podcast recently. I think he's actually pretty well educated on Looksmaxxing, and he's a pretty well-spoken guy. He can even be pretty funny at times, but the main issue is how incredibly insecure he is. He's already well above average in looks and height, but he's gotten cosmetic surgery and plans to get more done, as well as limb lengthening surgery to go from 6'2" to 6'6". This guy does not care about being healthy or living a long life. He just cares about being as attractive as possible today so that he can reap the benefits of being a PSL god, as the black pillars would say, which is basically just being a 10 out of 10. I also forgot to mention that he takes meth, and he started taking testosterone at 14, so he's already very physically enhanced. I genuinely don't understand how he was allowed to take testosterone at 14, like how his parents let him do that, and I don't understand the meth thing either. I'm sure there's something out there of him explaining why he does it, but there's no way that that's good for you long term. On top of all of that, he also loves to make racist jokes and rage bait the black community. The only thing that I would say he has going for him is that he has decent knowledge on Looksmaxxing and procedures, and even that's kind of a hot take, because it's like this stuff that he's doing is gonna maybe make him look a little bit better right now, but long term he's gonna look like shit. Like, he's not gonna be good looking in a few years. I promise you that. He already looks aged way beyond his years. So this is not really Looksmaxxing if you ask me. So even saying that he has a good knowledge of it is kind of a hot take. This is absolutely not someone that you should follow. He's literally a dopamine addict. There's nothing about him that you should try to emulate if you're a young man. I'm gonna go ahead and put him in the B tier just because he's actually had a pretty decent transformation. I would put him in misleading info, but he's not necessarily telling people to go do what he's doing. He's just doing it. I'm going to put him in the B tier. Moving on, the second person we're going to talk about is actually Clavicular's friend, and his name is Androgenic. This guy's had a crazy glow up. Now, I personally think that he looks a little bit uncanny, like not really human-like. I think he would be scary to the average girl, but I do see him with women often, so I may be wrong. Now, Androgenic claims to have gotten his changes from taking hormones like testosterone and HGH, but I think he's had some surgeries done on top of that, even though he claims not to have. What's crazy to me is that people actually believe that he's gotten these changes without surgery. I've seen pictures on his page that look like him after surgery. It looks like side effects of someone who just got filler or surgery. You guys can go check it out for yourselves. And guys, just put this into perspective. If there's an individual who's willing to look their best and do whatever it takes to get there and takes steroids and does not care about side effects, why would they draw the line at surgery? Like, that makes no sense. The only reason they claim to have done it only with steroids is because it feels more achievable to the average person. The average teenager cannot afford a $10,000, $6,000 procedure to get his jaw augmented. He can maybe get his hands on some HGH or some testosterone, so it just feels a lot more achievable. That's why people like Androgenic are selling you this dream that he did it, semi-naturally with just steroids and not surgery. But he's lying to his audience. I'm going to put him in the C tier because I think he's a liar. Next, we have Face IQ. Now, I feel like he has a little bit of a childish way of viewing Looksmaxxing and dating. He often reacts to, dating show videos, and he will make claims like, oh, it's over for this guy. This guy's the worst eye area of all time. And then the guy gets chosen by a girl right after. I also feel like his face ratings are not super accurate, but that's kind of a universal phenomenon because Looksmaxxers don't want to, admit that looks are actually pretty subjective and that your character actually can outshine your looks in a lot of instances. Face IQ also preaches eating raw meat, which is wild to me. I'm not going to eat uncooked food just to look slightly better or have slightly better skin. I could literally just be eating seasoned food and look just as good. That's my personal opinion, though. I'm just not going to get behind that. But he does have pretty good knowledge about facial aesthetics in general, and a lot of his videos are somewhat informative. I think he could actually give you pretty solid Looksmaxxing advice if you joined his school community or were part of his one-on-one coaching or whatever. So I'm going to actually put him in the A tier. Anyways, moving on, we have a guy named Kyan Stone. Now, bro's had a decent transformation and gives decent advice. He's actually a friend of Face IQ's, I think. I've seen them link up a couple times. Now, Kyan gives a lot of advice based on his own experience, which is what I do too, so it's fair. I just don't really like his approach. He has this know-it-all approach, and I think he believes that he looks better than he actually does because he claims he looks better than a lot of top models, but he's overall pretty chill. I'm just going to put him in the A tier. Next, we have a guy named Zeta, who's actually extremely popular in the black pill community, specifically on TikTok. I don't think that he actually looks maxed. I think he's naturally good looking, and the Looksmaxxing community found him, and he blew up. He recently decided to start making Looksmaxxing content too, but I highly doubt doubt that any of his advice is based on his own experience. Now, I have seen some of his videos and the advice is solid, so I'm going to just put him in the B tier. Next, we have a guy named Bas or Base, and he claims to have had a natural transformation from this to this, which to me is obviously impossible naturally. He claims to have boosted testosterone and growth hormone naturally, but I'm willing to bet that he's had some procedures done as well. He also wears a lot of makeup and uses filters in his videos to look better, and I don't really see him giving advice on his TikTok. I think that he has like a private community, some sort of Discord or school community that he teaches on, but I don't think that he's had his transformation naturally, so I'm going to put him in the C tier. Next, we have a guy named Don Starke. Now, this guy's blown up within the last year and he's gained a huge following on Instagram and TikTok. He gives overall really good advice. Everything that he talks about actually works, and most of it has been backed by science and research. He's also had a very impressive transformation and he stays out of controversy. I really like him. I think he's an honest guy. I'm going to put him in the S tier, and I think he's someone you guys should definitely follow. Next, we have Blake Speaks. Now, this guy's a firm believer in hardmaxxing and peptide maxing, which in my opinion is a little bit of a dangerous sentiment to be spreading to young guys, especially teenagers. But what I like about him is his content is based on his own experience and, experiments that he tries on himself. Because of that, I'd say that he's one of the more honest creators in the space, and he doesn't directly tell kids to use peptides or, get surgery. He's actually against kids using it, but he makes interesting content overall. I'm going to put him in the A tier. Next, we have a guy named Joshua Allard. He promotes things based on his own experience as well. He has a lot of good takes, but a lot of his takes are also not, backed by science and are maybe like low-key pseudoscience techniques. So I don't know if those are really credible, but he seems to be an honest guy, and he's also had an impressive transformation, so I'll put him in the A tier. Next, we have Nickfraser, and in my opinion, he's had somewhat of an unimpressive transformation. For that reason, I feel like his advice is not super credible. I've seen some videos where he seems, to be giving relatively good advice. Like, it's not bad advice, it's advice that works, but to me, just seems like he looks like an average guy to me. I don't think that he's done a lot of looksmaxxing, so I'm gonna put him in the B tier. Maybe that's a hot take, but that's what I think. Moving on, we have Jordan Wood. Similarly to Oscar Patel, he's a huge advocate for thumb pulling. I would say, though, he's more credible than Oscar just because he seems to have done much more research and shows science-backed evidence that supports his claims. But even with that said, I don't think that his before and afters are convincing enough. I feel like the pictures are too low quality. They're not, like, a lot of them are mirror pictures. They're not, like, pictures taken with a camera where you can actually see the angles. He always uses, like, his ears to line up the pictures, but I just don't think it's convincing enough. I feel like it could easily be just puberty and, like, some softmaxxes, healthmaxxing as well, that has made him look better and not actually thumb pulling. But guys, there's obviously still a chance that thumb pulling did work on him and I'm wrong. But I'm going to put Jordan Wood in the B tier just because I'm not sure if he's legit or not. Next, we have someone named Merithrah, but she's had a pretty crazy transformation and gained a lot of popularity being one of the first female looksmaxxers. But I don't think that she's very well informed because she says things about how she fixed her maxilla. But when I look at her transformation, I only see weight loss and de-bloating. I think she likely just is repeating advice that she's heard from other creators in the space and is using it to sell her course to an untapped niche of women that want to look better. And because of that, I'm going to put her in the B tier just because I don't really think that she knows what she's talking about. Next, we have a guy named Romulus. Now, similar to Zeta, he was already good looking. He's been a model for years. He just hopped on the looksmaxxing trend. I doubt that his before pictures are even real. I think he's always been good looking and he's just using the looksmaxxing niche to grow his popularity. So I'm going to put him in the C tier just for potentially having fake before pictures. Next, we have a guy named Nocturnal. Similarly to Androgenic, he seems to have had some surgeries and also is on steroids. He preaches healthmaxxing naturally, unlike Androgenic. They're actually buddies in real life. I've seen them together a lot, but he's had a very drastic transformation and he looks a little bit less uncanny than Androgenic, but he still looks a little bit off. There's something unnatural about his face, but you still can't say that he doesn't look much better than he did before. Either way, I'm going to put him in the C tier. Next, we have a guy named Salludon. Now, he's always had a pretty good base, but he's had a pretty impressive transformation. He never really posts advice, so I can't rate his advice because I'm not, going to buy his course. But I say he's had a good transformation, so I can imagine that he can give you decent advice to get a similar transformation. And I don't think his transformation is fake because his before pictures, like what he used to look like, is on his page currently, so you can literally see his old posts. He's also a model now, so that proves that, it definitely did something. But at the same time, even his before pictures are above average, like in looks, so I don't really know if he can give you the craziest advice. Like, it's probably mostly softmaxxing, but since I haven't bought his course, I'm going to just put him in the A tier based off of aura. There's not really anything there to work with. Next, we have a guy named Derb, and he kind of does looksmaxxing meme content, not really advice, but I've seen videos more recently where he's giving advice, and it's actually pretty good advice. I like him because he's always being himself, and he kind of does what he wants. He also seems to like be a real person, unlike a lot of these other creators. So I'm just going to put him in a B tier because he's not really a looksmaxxing creator. He kind of just does funny content and sprinkles in looksmaxxing here and there. Actually, I'm going to bump him up to the A tier just because I like his videos. Next, we have Vmogsu, and this guy's had a crazy glow up, but he's always frauding in his videos. He uses heavy filters and is always spamming the same angles. He's always making like a face. He's kind of unhinged and makes weird videos from time to time. I'm pretty sure he makes music too, which is kind of different, so shout out to bro for that. But I haven't really seen much advice given. I think he just makes content where he's mogging you with Looksmaxxer music in the background. So I'm going to just put him in the C tier. Next, we have Shami. Now, he's mad chill. He's been posting on YouTube. I really like his advice. He links up with Clavicular a lot, which kind of makes him a little bit questionable. But besides that, he gives pretty solid advice, and he's also not new gen. He popularized looksmaxxing. Like, he might be the first person that made it popular, so I just wanted to put him in the video. I'm going to put him in the S tier. Next, we have Gabriel Dridi. Don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but he is genuinely a scammer. He makes videos lying about how he used to be short and did some secret method that grew him 10 inches and tells you to buy his course, but it's literally all lies. He's always been well above average in height, and you can tell by looking at his before pictures. I do think he's done some slight softmaxxing, but he just regurgitates information that he hears from more popular creators, so I'm going to put him in the D tier. Next, we have Rorz. Obvious S tier immediately. He makes good content still. He's not new gen. I just wanted to put him in the video as well to shout him out a second time. But anyways, moving on. Next, we have Baby Stickley, who's obviously a scammer. Okay, I'm just joking. L rage bait, haha. Anyways, I've honestly changed my opinion about him. He's obviously had a pretty impressive transformation, and he may be one of the most popular looksmaxxers besides Clavicular. He actually used to be more popular until Clav obviously took his spot recently. I feel like he does help people transform, but the problem I have with Baby Stickley is that he makes it seem like his advice could help anyone and everyone, but his content is made for one type of person, which is someone with a good base naturally that wants to softmax. He says things like stop blaming your genetics, or he condemns hardmaxxing, but hardmaxxing is the only option if you don't have a good base naturally, so his content is somewhat cope. I think it's a similar situation to Androgenic, where condemning hardmaxxing just lowers the barrier to entry for people to buy your course, so it's basically just a sales tactic. Either way, he's still helping men feel better about themselves and get more confident and improve, so for that, that's a good thing. Like, I'm not gonna knock the guy for that. And he's also had great success in the looksmaxxing space and has built a pretty large and loyal fan base. He's also weirdly good at everything, which is glazed, but you guys can go look at his page and you'll see what I mean. Nigga be like drawing and flipping and fucking playing instruments and shit. But anyways, I'm gonna put him in the B tier. I would like to put him in the A tier, but I don't know. I'm gonna just put him in the B tier, bro. Sorry. Next, we have Patel, and he's responsible for popularizing thumb pulling and pseudoscience techniques like zygo pulling and pushing, as well as something called zygo tape, which to this day, I have no idea how it works. I feel like Oscar is definitely a shady guy because he contradicts himself a lot. I don't see any real transformation in his before and afters. His befores are all pictures of him when he was like 12 years old, so it's like 90% puberty. Everyone's had a similar transformation. If you take a picture of yourself when you were 12 and now, you're gonna look very different, and you can't just say that that's looksmaxxing. I don't really think that he's actually looksmaxxed personally. For those of you who are tapped in with the black pill, you guys know about the what's a maxilla incident. Pause the video to find out more. And something that I find very suspicious is that there was a video a while back of him chilling on a private jet with popular course seller and scammer Iman Gadzi that vanished off the face of the earth randomly, and I can't seem to find the video anywhere, even though I distinctly remember seeing it earlier this year and even saving it for later usage. Now do what you will with that information. Also, the techniques that he claims work, like thumb pulling, has little to no research backing it, and I highly doubt that he's done it for an extended period of time to see results. So overall, I'm not a big fan of Oscar Patel, but I'll give him credit for promoting healthmaxxing because I'm a big advocate for that, so I'm going to put him in the B tier. Now, before I completely end the list, let me give an honorable mention to Cookie King. He would be in the S tier, obviously. If there's anyone that I left out, let me know in the comments. But that's going to be the end of the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.